The combination of people, processes, and systems are what any business would run on. Most entrepreneurs aren't able to get there. They start with that vision, but they always get stuck into the business.
The word busy is actually, I don't know, it's whether it's abusively used. WhatsApp chatbot, CRM systems, maybe could be some top finance system. I thought all this was only available in the hands of few, Microsoft, Oracle, and only large companies could afford them. Do small companies can really afford them?
When it comes to customer chatbots and automating your inbound customer experience in a very natural way. Then secondly, it helps employees do better work.
Why is this taking so much time? Why don't we automate this process? Hey guys, welcome to this series of Founders Edge, organized by Plan My Firm. Here we will try to understand whether processes and systems are part of the businesses, and is automation the new norm? So let us welcome our guest today, Rhino Uses, the founder and CEO of Accelerate Technologies. Let us understand from him how technology has evolved today in the business world. So Rhino, welcome on the show.
Cool. Thank you very much, Peter. Thanks for having me.
So Rhino, I think, have I summarized it right? Or is there something else I need to add?
No, I think, look, technology has always been, especially in the last few years, it's been something that's there to support businesses. I think that's the key thing to know. Technology is not something that's going to solve all your business problems. You can't just rely on it. But like you touched on, the combination of people, processes, and systems are what any business would run on, right? So what we do at Accelerate, like you touched on, is help businesses find out what mix of that should we get right so that they can perform at their highest levels and scale the businesses in the right way.
Oh, wow. So I wanted to understand that if someone, most of the things around technology, people think that fine, to implement a process, do I need to implement it? Because I'm a small firm. Do I really need to implement it? Or is it that, okay, fine, I will just start a firm and then manage people and expect them to do and complete my vision? Is it really working in this manner? Or is it that if a company is not well versed with systems and processes, it becomes very difficult for them to operate, at least in the digital economy?
I think in terms of my view, right, if we take a few steps back, why do most people start businesses? They start businesses for time freedom and money freedom. And we know, just on the conversations you and I have had, that most entrepreneurs aren't able to get there. They start with that vision, but they always get stuck into the business. And that's the niche that I found with Accelerate is I want to help entrepreneurs move from working in the business to on the business. And like I mentioned before, you've got those three aspects. Any business runs off a process, whether it's a sales process, a marketing process, an inventory process for a retailer. You've got your people doing this work. If they don't know what they need to do, nothing will work. And then you've got the system to support all of that. So if your business is running fine, and as an entrepreneur, you have time freedom and money freedom, you probably don't need any people, process, or system enhancement because things are working. But if you find yourself not having any of those things, or if you're trying to scale and you keep hitting up against the ceiling, then I would strongly suggest people take a step back and start looking at where might things not be going well? Where am I firefighting? Where am I working in the business rather than working on the business? Because the job of an entrepreneur or founder is to set the strategy and vision and then get the organization to go in that direction.
Very well said. Actually, I had this similar example, when one of my friend actually, he runs a cleaning company. And most of the time when I call him and ask him that, what's happening? And he says, I'm very busy. And the word busy is actually, I don't know, it's whether it's abusively used. And I asked him exactly, but most of the time I asked him, okay, what's the profit of the company or how are you doing? Oh, I'm almost short of cash. I don't have money. My business is doing very well, but I'm doing sales. I'm not able to give the quotes on time, and nor I'm giving them even services, and I'm not able to collect the money. I say, what's really happening then? Don't you have a system? He says, yes, I have these top systems. Is systems very mixed with softwares, do you think? I think, or is both these things together? Is it in the mind of an entrepreneur or a business owner that, okay, if I buy a particular software, then I implement a system. Is it like that? What do you feel? Because this is very confusing to me.
Yeah, well, good point, right? I think let's separate the two, because you could have a business system where you run a mix of processes and technology, but then you've got the technology, right, which is the software that you implement to support those. So yes, sure, you could have a system that starts with a process, leads onto a technology, and then spits out something at the end. Whether it's working or not, that's a different question. But then it's about finding the mix of, are you utilizing the right technology? Are you utilizing the technology in the right way? Is it integrated? Because I think the example that you just mentioned here was, two key things stood out for me. There's a difference between being busy and being productive, right? And the third thing, or the second thing, sorry, is around, you can't manage what you don't measure. And if you don't have clear understanding and visibility of your business, which is really where systems, I feel, help a lot once you've got the processes lined out, is where an entrepreneur can sit back and see, hang on, I've got, from a sales perspective, this is what's coming in. This is where I need to collect more funds. Here's my marketing approach. This is what's working, what's not. Cash flow, how am I doing? So once you start getting that, what I call one source of truth, by integrating all of these systems and processes, that's kind of what we want to get to, right? So that an entrepreneur should effectively be able to sit on a beach on the other side of the world and see how his or her business is doing, based on all of this insights that we gather on.
Yeah, but on the contrary, you see this business owner, he wants to be the Iron Man, saying that, boss, I'm the crisis manager. Come up to me. In case of this problem, that problem, or any functional issues, he wants to stand. I think those are the gaps that I think the system and the processes fills up, because that's where consistently you can achieve the results without the entrepreneur or the business owner being into the game.
Yes, and that's what we try and do, is to get businesses there. But look, some entrepreneurs love the firefighting, right? And maybe they don't want the systems because they enjoy that. And that's why it's important to understand kind of, what are you trying to achieve as an entrepreneur or as a businessman? Why did you start this? What is the why behind everything? And then we work with you to solve that down the line.
But now with this new technology that's coming, Chatgpt, AI, blockchain, this is only words, or are these systems really working? Or is it possible for small business owners to implement them in their system? Because I always see this, chat flow going on, WhatsApp chatbot, CRM systems, maybe could be some top finance system. I thought all this was only available in the hands of few, Microsoft, Oracle, and only large companies could afford them. Do small companies can really afford them?
So blockchain is a bit difficult for me to comment on. I'm not too familiar with that, so let me rather park that one. But in terms of AI, I think that's the beauty of technology the last while, especially the last 10 years, I would say. It's been completely democratized, so it's available to anyone. In
the forms of tools.
In the form of tools, yes. And that's an important thing that you mentioned there, because any technology, it's a tool in the toolbox. It's not the silver bullet, right? People have to understand that. AI is now the latest buzzword, and everyone is jumping on that train. And for a good reason, right? It has a lot of potential, but you've got to apply it for a specific use case in your business and design the tools around that. So to answer your first question, is this something available to small businesses and entrepreneurs? Absolutely. That's also how it's been built. You just need to know how to firstly identify what's the use case, what's the problem I'm trying to solve, and then utilize the technology and develop it in a way to solve that problem, not a one-size-fits-all solution. I think the developments that AI is making, and it's continuously developing, it has enormous potential for small businesses to automate a lot of repetitive business functions. So there's a lot of things happening when it comes to customer chatbots and automating your inbound customer experience in a very natural way. Then secondly, it helps employees do better work, right? Whether you can take your internal knowledge base, put it on a chatbot, and you can help your employees to do better work by querying this down the line. So I think it has enormous potential, but you've also got to, it's the horses for courses. Select the right horse for the course that you're trying to win on.
Yeah, I remember, when the initial WhatsApp, was introduced, and my mom and all, she was suffering to use it, in the initial stage, because they use the messaging system. And when this app-based chatting started, and she was then, but sooner or later she had to adapt it. And that's what I feel, that going forward from a year, maybe 3 years, 5 years, again, we don't know what's the relevance of time. But again, going forward, sooner or later, businesses, even if they are important or they're able to serve customers, will start getting irrelevant if they do not embrace digital technology. What do you say about these things?
Yeah, 100% correct, right? Once again, it boils down to what does the entrepreneur want. If you just want a one-man band business and you're happy with running it the way you run it, then fine. But if you want to compete and if you want to really scale your business, you have to look at ways of either reducing your costs or becoming more efficient, which most of the time it points to technology. I'm not saying that's the only solution, but most of the times that's why you see so many softwares out there. Or you've got to move the conversation away from commodity to value-based things. And that's becoming harder and harder in this digital age that we are in, to differentiate yourself and give more value on a different way. So I think for any business that wants to grow in the digital economy, they have to accept or adapt to at least some part of it. Maybe not everything.
So
But
can you say sustainability and scalability is only possible through process system and automation?
absolutely. For
To a
me,
large extent.
yes, if you don't have processes that are operating efficiently with people in the business knowing what they need to do and what their role is in driving the business forward, you're not going to have a successful business for any period of time.
And you cannot scale it as well.
And you can't scale it because it's reliant on how effective these people and processes are. Like I mentioned in the beginning, technology is a support structure. So systems you only implement at the end, but that's the support structure to help you really scale your business. If you're talking 2x, 4x, or 10x your business, I can't see businesses doing that without some form of technological support to allow them to achieve that. Because you can have the best processes and the best people in place. Once your business grows past a certain scale in terms of people, it becomes very difficult to manage this without some technology.
So today it's about the need. And if you do not embrace it, it's going to sooner or later be an adverse position.
Exactly.
And then you're trying to catch up and trying to build a new system. It's going to be merely very difficult and also very costly.
Yeah, what I found with a lot of businesses is if you delay the process or systems part too long, the time to implement increases significantly, your cost to implement as well, and there's an inherent resistance to change that builds up in the organization as you scale, because people get used to doing things on Excel or in a certain way or however it might be. So I'm not saying do it right at the beginning. It's finding that happy medium, and there's pros and cons with each. But yeah, the sooner you get your business humming effectively, the more you can focus as a manager or as an entrepreneur on guiding the business and achieving your vision.
So how does your day look like when you walk into a client's office? What sort of queries do client call you in? Like say, okay, fine, Rhino, I have these issues. And what are the normal issues that you really face on a day-to-day basis when you meet clients? You've serviced more than about 100, 200 clients. What exactly are the normal questions or normal sufferings of those business owners?
So this is a tough one, right? Because no business is the same, and so all businesses are unique. Okay, each of them have their different. They're either a different business completely, or they're on a different path in their journey. So some businesses already have systems, right? So let's use one that has a finance system implemented in a CRM, but the entrepreneur doesn't know what's going on. So that's just a lack of integration or a source of truth issue. That's something we had with a recent client, where all we have to do is help them figure out, how can I give you the visibility so that you can manage your business? Other businesses we walk into, they've been working on Excel sheets for their whole life. They don't have a finance system. They don't know what the cash flow is. Completely different story, right? So I think the important thing here to note is how we approach things when we work with clients is we work across business functions. So we work from your sales and marketing through to your customer support, operations, HR, and finance at the end. And we first look at how are you doing overall? So I don't walk into a client meeting saying, I've got to sell you a system. The first thing that we do, and that's why we spent a lot of time creating our onboarding processes, is really understand the business.
The weightage of each function.
Yes, the need. So we'll start with a very generic or general question. What's the biggest problems you're facing in the business? Now, you might have called me for a finance system, but by asking that question, I get to understand that maybe it's somewhere else.
And like we suffered that, customers used to send us inquiry, but we were unable to quote immediately. Now, even when the prices are with us, the quotation is taking 1 day, or it's taking more than about at least 6-7 hours. And that's when we asked you that, why is this taking so much time? Why don't we automate this process?
Yeah, exactly. And like you would have, recalled when we did this, the first thing we do is we say, before we worry about systems, let's just do a root cause analysis. Let's really go and understand where the problems are so that we can fix it upstream. Because I think, unfortunately, I'm an impatient person, right? And I know most people, business owners as well, are impatient, but they want to fix the problem that's in front of them. And most of the time, that's not where the problem actually sits. It sits quite a bit up the chain. So that's why we spend a lot of time helping uncover things with businesses. I was just in a client meeting last week where the initial meeting was, hey, let's find a system to help you optimize your business. And I said to them halfway through, there's no system that's going to solve your business problems. We have to fix the processes first. So let's work on that. So coming back to your initial, what's the most common problems? Look, a lot of businesses don't have systems, but they're all unique.
Or either they have a lot of softwares and they're looking for people to operate them.
Yes. So that's why we treat it on a case by case basis, and try and really understand what are the root causes so that when we implement something, whatever it is, it actually solves the problem. Because that's what I get excited about, is by solving that problem and getting the entrepreneur to just go, whew, okay, one less thing on my plate, right?
And you are basically achieving that outcome out of what exactly you intend to do. Because most of the time people are suffering that. I have seen, like, I have friends who own businesses and they appoint employees and they try to give them the work. They are not able to differentiate whether, first let us identify the role of the employee, a role of that, or basically the role of that function, and then try to put an employee. What they do is they do it opposite. They basically employ a person and then try to give him all the possible roles. He generously accepts everything, but he's never able to give them the results. Do you really suffer these things at times when you meet clients?
Yeah, no, I've also seen that a few times, and that's kind of coming back to the uniqueness of each client, right? Because some people will have very good systems, but their people don't have a clue what they're doing, or they set ambitious goals and then they flounder a bit because they of certain things in place. So the example that you're referring to is very much, I think what people at times struggle to understand is that any business has you set a target, right? We need to hit a certain revenue or achieve certain things. To do that, you have roles in an organization. A role is not a person. A person fills that role, and the role is time bound to achieving that goal. Then the role changes, because an organization it's dynamic. It doesn't stay the same, because just like in life, in business, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. Yes. So you have to structure things in the right way. That's I think one of the most important things that a lot of businesses don't necessarily focus on, because they're too busy running the business, is sitting down and saying, okay, what's the CEO actually responsible for? What's the accountant responsible for? The marketing manager? Clearly
the CEO is defined as chief everything officer,
yes,
I think.
Yes, exactly. And then he's not doing anything.
Yeah,
right?
He's not doing anything for everything.
Yeah. So I think just taking the time to do that, then fitting the people in, because now you've got people know where they're going. They have a role in the business. You can measure them. And it just calms things down a little bit.
And you can narrow down the goals then, fine. I mean, everyone is responsible for their own roles. And again, it's all narrowed down to the common objective of the company.
Exactly. And I mean, there's a great quote from Warren Buffett, right? That says that the difference between good businesses or entrepreneurs and great businesses or entrepreneurs is that a great entrepreneur says no to about 95% of the opportunities that come his way. And the only way you do that is by having that clear focus to work towards, and structuring everything and everyone in your business around achieving that one goal. Because coming back, you can only, if you're trying to do everything, you're not doing anything. So focus on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, structure everything around that and hit it. Right?
So I think you can be more creative once you're able to see the business from outside rather than being inside the business. I mean, you'll be more clear. I mean, because it all depends where exactly your creativity of intelligence is. I mean, if like a famous quote given by one of the great writers, he says that it's all in context of where you are. The intelligence can be explored from where you are. It's not the definition of intelligence saying that observe and adapt. It is all in relevance of where you stand or what is the state of your mind. And that's where your intelligence is defined. Yeah. So you could be more productive, more defined when your state of mind is in a much more calmer manner or much more visible for the business or maybe you're able to visualize the business in much more clearer sense. Make sense?
Yeah, you're 100% correct. And that comes back to also defining those roles and understanding what you, as a, say, a CEO, entrepreneur, founder, might not be good at, and then filling those roles. Like, as much as I can do business development and sales and marketing, I'm not very good at that. And I know that. So I need to find someone for that. And I think that's why when you sit down and define those roles, it helps you just give you a bit of clarity of mind, because you don't, if you're a 3 out of 10 in one element, but you're a 7 out of 10 in something else, rather focus on being better at the thing you're already good at than trying to become a 5 out of 10 in the thing that you're bad at, right? So once again, using the sales thing for me, it doesn't help my focus on that, because I'll at best only be half mediocre. I'd rather get someone to do that, and you can focus on the things that you more.
Nowadays, you see a lot of business owners who basically try to be this me too. I mean, they copy someone else's idea, or they want to actually free their time from their routine work of 9 to 6 and would like to basically start a business. A lot of options available, of course. But are they able to run the business without having any systems and processes? Because many times you want to operate a business in Dubai, but you're not in Dubai. You're somewhere in India, you're somewhere in Pakistan, you're somewhere in Europe, and you still want the business because you already have a business running in multiple jurisdictions, but yet you want to control it. Is it possible to achieve targets from specific geographies?
Look, I don't want to say, no, you won't be able to. I just think it'll be very hard if you don't have the fundamentals in place. And that's what I keep, for me, it keeps boiling down to these fundamentals: people, process, systems, right? And it doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be sexy. It doesn't have to be fancy. I just think it's important to have those fundamentals down, because then you won't be firefighting the whole time. So yes, it's probably possible. It might be frustrating as hell to try and run a business that doesn't have these things in place, and you probably can do it, but I would strongly advise against.
So basically, your day starts with, fine, you try to understand the business. What I understand, okay? Correct me if I'm wrong. So you basically try to understand the business. You try to understand the current problems that it's facing. You try to see what resources does it have. And then you try to basically align all those things by giving them systems that actually, and designing processes that are mapped to those systems, so that they ultimately drive towards automation. Is it something like that?
Yeah. So what we try and do is take businesses through basically a 4-step journey, right? First thing is, let's select the right systems for you, if you need a system. Now, that's where the initial discovery phase sits, where we really try and understand, where are you? What's bugging you, and where do you want to go? That third component is very important, and I think a lot of people forget about that, because it doesn't help we pick a system that fits your business now, but you're planning to 10x it, or go to different markets or whatever, and the system can't do that. Because for me, a system needs to last at least 18 months, at least, in a business, without needing to change, even in this rapidly changing environment that we're in. So first thing, let's select the right system, and that could be a mix of reviewing what you've got or looking at something else. Then we implement it. Now, for me, it's not just about implementing, hit and run. You've got the system, here's the keys, go and do it. It's about getting a business to adoption. What does adoption mean? It means that everyone in the business is using it, because you can have the best system possible, but if your people don't use it, it's worthless. So how do we get people to utilizing the system and trusting in the system? Once we're at that stage, we start looking at, now we want to integrate, because what we want to do is we want to start giving entrepreneur different levels of visibility and automation. So once we implement it and integrate it, now we can start saying, okay, cool, one source of truth, whether it's in your finance system or whatever your primary source is. The final step is then where we look at automating things, that your processes are consistent and reliable and repeatable. Once you get to that stage, that means the entrepreneur isn't firefighting the whole time. We've moved in from working in the business to working on the business. So,
I mean, I have this real estate friend, and I see him, he's spending a lot of money in terms of keep pushing his products across the globe in terms of marketing. And when I met him and I asked him that, okay, these inquiries do come. I'm sure that a customer, a buyer of a property, is not going to buy the property in the first instance. Or maybe he just inquired, you gave him the answer, and now you move to another inquiry, you kept on. So how do you actually manage data? So you mean to say, again, data management is also a very important part of the systems and technology?
yeah, absolutely.
Because it's going to be the key. It's going to be a very big asset as far as the organization is concerned, because If you keep targeting new data every time, it's going to be very expensive. And that's when a system is very important, so that you can retarget the inquiries that were already, had come to you. Can you give me some lights about these things, especially when real estate companies are especially spending heavy on marketing? How they can reuse this data that's already come up in their system once, and how they can keep till they sell still they sell a property to them, because the buyer was a unique buyer. He actually had an interest to buy, and that's how he sent the message. So it means he inquired, and now how do you basically move him in from that to the prospect cycle?
Yeah, so I think a great example, and it's a relevant one because we're just working with a few real estate clients now. So with real estate, one thing you mentioned there is the very long sales cycles. So someone might inquire now, but they might not necessarily be ready to buy. How would you usually manage this? Hopefully, you've got a great real estate agent that's on top of things, and he makes his reminders and notes it down in an Excel sheet and creates a task for himself 6 months from now to follow up. But what happens if he leaves? Then the data goes with him because it's probably on his personal phone or this or that. So ownership of data, I think, is the first one, right? As a business and a business owner, especially these days, your clients, you're paying for these leads. You want to make sure that you hold on to them and that you can utilize them again and again, unless someone obviously opts out with GDPR and all these things. So I think for most businesses, just that already, for a real estate company that has these high ticket items and long sales cycles, if you aren't running on a CRM, you are losing out on enormous potential for sales down the line, because a CRM can automatically, person's not right or ready to buy now, fine, I'll contact him in 3 months, and automatically.
And it's just not normal CRM. It's a CRM that is friendly for him.
Yes, and
very industry specific.
Yes, and that's the kind of where we specialize, right? Is we go and find those industry specific solutions, because when you talk CRM, you think HubSpot, Salesforce, this, that. Now, they're all great systems, but they might not be the perfect one for a real estate company. So we scour the globe and look for the best softwares out there. We've recently found a software that's been in the market for, this is not real estate specific, but in another industry. It serves 2 million people, but nobody knows about it because the entrepreneurs never driven sales. And we're now utilizing that for some of our other clients. So we really try and uncover these systems and get the use cases and really understand what you need so that we can find the perfect solution for it.
Going back to that same question of that, many people can actually, you find a lot of business owners who buy the software maybe online, or maybe there'll be software companies that would come and sell to them, and they claim that they know the processes of such industries. Then how would you be different from them? Because that's where I find the gap of understanding is.
Yeah, great question, Peter. Thanks. So that's one of the key reasons actually why I ended up founding Accelerate, was to fill that gap, because we're system agnostic. We're not trying to force one system down your throat. If a business already has an accounting system, even though we believe there might be a better one out there, we will try and work with them, because it's better to get you to use a system that you're familiar with better than change a system and then go through that pain as well. So for us, we're, like I mentioned, system agnostic. So we find the best solution. We will tell you if we think you better. And unless it is something where not changing the system is going to stop you in the future, we stick with the system that you've got. I would rather than try and integrate things into it. And that's kind of where we're also different to other providers, because we don't just use one type of system. We look at different types. We also develop our own dashboards that give the entrepreneur full visibility on where his business is at. So we're busy in the process right now of developing industry-specific solutions that takes the internal data based on whatever systems you use and also combines it with the external data to give you a full view of where your business is in a specific market to help you with your decision-making, because that's what it's all about. We want to give the entrepreneur, the business, the guys managing the business, the most information possible to make the right decisions and then act on it.
Yeah, I could be a customer, and of course, when I'm looking at, or I'm maybe surfing in the night, or maybe I'm going through Instagram and I feel that I want to buy some services, and maybe that's about 11:30 in the night. Of course, the company is not going to be open. At that time, it makes it very important for you to be system savvy, or maybe having a robust system in order to reply to the customer. If not, the customer is dropped off, because I send an inquiry and I get, okay, I'll call you tomorrow, sir, once my office opens up. I'm left with no answer. Maybe at that time I would have bought a service if someone, or at least I would have played with the questionnaire, saying that, okay, And if you would have implemented a chat GPT or any other system, then maybe I would have got answers of the queries that you're marketing for. And maybe I would have turned up to be a potential customer tomorrow. But I think because of the lack of system that you do not have, it becomes difficult for me to come tomorrow, because I don't know what's my mood tomorrow. I think because my whole timetable is busy, and then I lose the track of doing that business with you. Do you have come across these issues?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not just the insomniac that's busy browsing at the middle of the night. It's we're in a global economy, right? So even though we sit in Dubai, we've got people from the US or India or different time zones continuously trying to either interact with companies here. So it's more about being online 24/7 for these examples. So
And that's where this system helps.
yes, exactly. And I think that's where the tipping point is right now. A few years back, it might have been okay if you weren't on WhatsApp, but now if you're not, you're missing out, kind of thing. And it'll be the same with these systems. Customers just want more and want more and want more, and they expect more. So if you or your business doesn't keep up with these requirements, it becomes your competitors will take that gap. So that's where the systems can help. Is once we've identified the specific challenge that you've got, and if you're getting a lot of queries in the middle of the night, cool, let's implement the system. If you're not, and if your business doesn't work like that, then I would probably even push back, even if you are saying, because it's about finding the right system or the right solution to the problem that.
Look at, large companies like GoDaddy, Urban Clap. I mean, without system, they would have never grown to this extent, because they depend a lot on upselling, cross-selling, and retention. And I feel if we do not implement these things, don't you think it's so difficult to basically, achieve these things?
100%. I think for most business owners, you find yourself chasing your tail 99% of the time because you don't have the right things in place. That's once again why I saw this niche. Is there's so many businesses out there that they are continuously firefighting. They don't know what's going on in the business. So if you constantly focused on what's in front of you and you don't have any planning, or you can't sit back and think, how do you stand out? Because most of these businesses that you just quoted, the reason that they got so big was because they had a very clear differentiation strategy, and they could focus and hit that and deliver that consistently. And I think that's the key point here, is the consistency of delivery. And you can't do that without proper processes and systems in place to support that.
Going back to your home country, where exactly in South Africa, where you used to do work, as a technology expert, I would like to understand, Rhino, from you, that how it is working differently in Dubai, and building or helping companies to grow in Dubai, very different from helping companies to build in South Africa. What is that competitive edge that Dubai has in building a business?
Yeah, cool. Great question. So in South Africa, what I'm used to, at least, is that it's a very competitive market. The margins that most businesses operate on are very small. So that means you are looking at eking out every small percentage. So that's why I feel South Africa is quite evolved when it comes to processes and using technology to drive efficiencies in their businesses. So in my experience there, we had systems in place for almost everything, right? You had a SOP, you had processes. You were very, very good at executing, because if you weren't, you died. As simple as that. The UAE, on the other hand, I think is still a rapidly evolving market with high purchasing power, and therefore businesses here have the luxury of higher margins, and they can get away with it, right? Because firstly, customers can afford it, so there's none of those pressures yet to drive down costs. And it's still a relatively young market that's growing very fast, so massive opportunities here. But I do think those margins will start getting eroded down the line. And if you aren't ready for it, your business, if it's running extremely inefficiently, it could cost you a lot down the line. And I think that's where the opportunity is. If you start just looking into these things now, implementing processes and systems, you get more efficient. So that means, because that's the thing, most systems, if they aren't paying back themselves, something's gone wrong, right? Most of these systems that we implement, if not all of them, will pay itself back. So it'll cost you less, it'll be more efficient, more effective, and therefore you can scale your business more effectively. Plus, you've actually built a moat around you compared to your competitors who might not have these things in place. So I think that's the beauty of Dubai, is you don't have to have a system right now, and you can run a very successful business. But a few years down the line, I'm willing to bet you will need one. If you don't have one, you will die, because it just becomes...
Look at the simple example of, prior to brands like Zomato or maybe Talabat, We used to call straight away a restaurant, and the restaurant guy used to deliver the food. And there was no industry in between. And now, when this Talabat or Zomato or these delivery service apps started, you see they've created this, I don't know, whether maybe $5 or $10 billion industry in that entire gap, where there was no industry at all. So I think how the startup has changed by putting in systems and processes, how they have basically evolved the market need, and how convenience actually has driven to create a new industry.
Yeah. Yeah. And once again, it's all driven by customer demand, right? And we've got to, businesses these days, you need to be operating on a different level of agility. You can't just be doing the same thing the same way for the same amount of time. You have to act much faster. And I think a lot of that boils down, for me, it just comes back to visibility. If you can't see things coming, or if you aren't looking up a little bit, you are putting yourself at risk of failure, because things change very quickly and you need to be aware. It doesn't mean you need to jump on every single fad that's coming or along, but you need to be aware of it and see how it impacts your business. And extremely important, because the guys that were just reliant on this and didn't get on this bus, now they might have crafted a different way to stay in business. And that might have been a very successful differentiation strategy, right? That you don't go on Zomato, you only focus on that. But a lot of others would have not known what to do. And if they didn't go on, they died, right?
And considering that the goals of UAE are to go, I mean, completely digital and to scrap away paper, I mean, the need of these systems are so much important now, adding to the country goals. What do you say about these things?
Yeah, and I think the UAE is also fantastic at adapting it, right? I think we are very fortunate where we live, with such a forward-thinking country and leadership, and everyone driving the digital economy forward. Because look, it's a double-sided sword, right? When you start digitizing things, inherently what you're doing is you're taking away, in essence, jobs, basic admin, repetitive jobs. But the beauty is, what are human beings really good at? Thinking, creativity. And these systems allow you to focus more on that. And that, for me, is the important thing. If you can get people to free them up to use their minds more instead of doing the same old repetitive things, that's just a win, right? For everyone. It's more, people feel more involved. They feel like they're contributing, adding value. Plus, you're getting a lot more thinking and IQ out of them. So for me, it's just a positive thing. It's I think it's great.
I think what you're doing is really amazing, and you're helping so many of companies to re-architect their business structures and realign their functionalities of business in the way their industry operates. I think this is a great job. Share me something about how actually how do you differentiate your or how do you manage your personal life and your business life?
Well, recently, I think
Or do you have a personal life? Because most of the time you're I mean, around computers and around systems, and you're just trying to and you're getting calls 24/7 of clients. How exactly do you manage with so much of demand that's pouring towards you?
It is, right. I think that's the difference between working for yourself and working for somebody else. When you work for somebody else, it's, when you leave the office, the job most of the time at least stops. If you work for yourself, that's not the case. If it's, I've got this quote written down in my diary and on my board that says, "Nobody's coming, it's up to you." And that's scary at times, right? Because if you don't drive this thing forward, nothing's going to happen. But it's also liberating. So I might be working a lot more than I have in recent times in terms of hours, etc. But it's very fulfilling because you're building your own business. But you touched on something very important. I think we're all human beings. We have to take care of ourselves, whether it's mental health or emotional or your physical health, and making the time for that is crucial. So what I try and do is I try and train at least 3 to 4 times a week. For me, it's running. That's what I love doing. Over weekends, I'm a massive motorsport fan, so I need to be able to switch off. But I try and be a bit more diligent in terms of blocking things out. That's what works for me. So that I say, between certain times, I do not take calls. Other times, I'm available 24/7 for clients. Because
one more thing I wanted to, I just missed in between. I wanted to take one more thing, that I met a friend, and he has a super business. I mean, the business is actually primarily into selling of used cars. And what they do is they source cars and then they make it available. Okay, it's privately owned sourcing options, but their profits are phenomenally good. But when they went for raising money, the venture capitalists denied them because they had lack of technology. And they said that you implement technology, add processes to the system, even if you're making money, we are not interested because we find sooner or later you'll get irrelevant. Uh, do you want to say something on this?
I think
There was good, healthy profit, and the company was ready to go to the next level. The investors actually said, adapt the business, make it digitally savvy, and then we raise in money.
I think reading between the lines, without knowing too much, and my opinion is that the VCs are probably looking for scalability, and without, you want to scale something 10 or 100x, and without systems again in place or things that can scale effectively, that means that you shouldn't put in every branch is 100 people and you need to roll out the processes. It means you can put in 10 people with a certain process, right? Look at McDonald's is a fantastic example of this. Why are they so effective? They don't have the best food in the world, but it doesn't matter where you are in the world. When you walk into a McDonald's, you will get the same burger no matter where you are. How do they do that? Their processes are phenomenal and they've got systems to support that. So that means you can open a franchise in a few weeks and it works exactly the same as the one, 3,000 miles away. And that is probably, reading between the lines, what the VC is looking for, that McDonald's type scalability.
It's the consistent experience what they are looking for, and that's where the brand is built. I mean, really, once again, I have to say thank you, Rhino, for this amazing insights that you gave about how processes and systems take you to automation and how they are important for building a business. And without these systems and processes, it is merely impossible going forward to run a business, and how automation is the new norm. I think thank you once again, and thank you for coming here. And anything that you would like to ask him?
No, once again, Peter, thanks for your time as well, and really appreciate it. And thanks for everything you're doing with Plan My Firm and creating this wonderful community that we can all be a part of to grow
Thank
our
you.
business in Dubai.